A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam as always. Sam, how you doing?
Mike, I'm doing great.
Basketball.
We had a great week of Suns basketball, an up and down week, 2-1,
Yeah.
Technically one loss in there, but a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. I feel very good about the opening week for the Phoenix Suns. I feel thoroughly entertained. I feel like we are obviously still waiting for the big three to play together, and that's a big element of this that we're going to talk about. But overall, I feel as though I have been stirred, I have been stimulated, I have been exhilarated by some of the stuff we've seen early on for the Phoenix Suns. Very excited to get into it because we have not recorded. Our last main feed episode was our season preview with Kellen, so we haven't talked about any of the stuff for the fine old folks yet.
Yeah, it's once there's actual basketball, all my sense of like time and space just goes away. That's all I've been doing every single day since the season has started, watching the Suns, and then on days without Suns games, watching other teams, and it's been insanely fun. But you're right. For the Suns, we're lucky to be able to record this one after a really great victory at their first home game of the season, where they did a lot of fun stuff, by the way, for Suns fans. But the story of the whole beginning of the season is sort of injuries to start, unfortunately, because as we know, Bradley Beal has yet to play a single game. Devin Booker played one game, looked like the best player in the NBA, and then hasn't played since. And who knows when they're going to be back. Of course, as is tradition with Suns, the way they talk about injuries, there's no real clarity on the situation for Suns fans, which bothers some people. I understand from the perspective of trying to buy tickets, but from a competitive standpoint, I think the Suns only view it as we don't want to give anybody anything that we don't have to.
Sure.
So Tuesday, Halloween, World Series game here in Phoenix, and another Suns game.
What
home game
time do you know off the top of your head? Congratulations to the D-backs, by the way.
Yeah.
Neither of us are huge baseball guys. I'm just going to be entirely honest, but
it's cool though.
I do think it's legitimately a very cool moment for the city. Do you know, are those games taking place at the same time?
No.
Okay.
A few hours before the Suns game, 3 hours before the Suns game, I believe, is when the World Series game takes place.
And it's Halloween, and the NBA's spookiest man, Victor Wembanyama, will be in town to celebrate as we get our first look at the Spurs. We actually play the Spurs twice in the upcoming week. Should be really fun. That one will again be on national TV. We're getting hit with the national TV. I mean, we knew it was going to be like this all season long. Frankly, we have like 40 national TV games, but all of our games have been nationally televised to open the season, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that game, I mean, we can all cross our fingers and hope, because it's a home game in particular, it would be nice to see the first game with all three guys healthy. To start, I think the Suns are being safe. They're being careful with these guys. They're not playing them in games where maybe they could play. They're trying to think about the long-term impact of what they can and can't do this season, maybe being a little playoff focused with it. And that means a lot of pressure was on Kevin Durant to start this season. He was not good in the first game in Golden State and has been excellent in the 2 games since then. The Suns have outscored opponents by 48 points with Kevin Durant on the court over the course of the 3 games that he's played so far, and have been outscored by other teams by 23 points when Kevin Durant is off the court in those games.
You could even take it one step further and say that the entirety of that plus 48 for KD being on the floor comes in just the past 2 games when Book and Beal were not playing. So for the Suns in the past 2 games to be plus 48 when KD is on the floor, sharing the floor with, and we'll talk about all of these guys and their respective virtues, and some of them have been quite good, but guys like Nurkic and Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen, Josh Okogie, it's impressive. It's an impressive feat what the Suns have looked like with only one of their 3 stars in just the past 2 games. We'll get to KD more in just a second. I just want to ask you real quick about Book.
Sure.
Injury specifics, because his injury started out as a toe.
Yeah.
How it was described on the injury report. And has since shifted to an ankle sprain.
It's traveling
of some
up his
sort.
leg, apparently.
It has traveled up his leg. Do you have any reactions or concerns related to that?
No, only because I think I saw the moment where he rolled his ankle. Dwayne Rankin actually posted a clip of it, and I think it was probably pretty accurate. There was a turnover in the Warriors game. I don't know if you remember this. It was in transition. He got past the first line of defense and then just kind of lost the ball out of bounds. And if you watch that clip, he rolls his ankle forward. So he kind of steps on the toes of his foot and rolls it forward. I have a feeling that that's where it came from. I don't know that that's related to the toe injury or if it's completely unrelated. As we know, like I said, the Suns aren't going to tell us, and that's fine. We don't necessarily need to know. We just need to know when he's healthy and when he's not healthy. And right now, I think it's likely that that's probably just a rolled ankle injury, and hopefully he'll be back soon. It's one of those injuries where if it's the playoffs, he could probably play.
Yeah,
it's still
I
not necessarily a great idea, but
right.
In the regular season, it's best to, there's always a chance of another injury.
Yeah.
With Devin Booker, you can be pretty specific about that because he played in the Christmas Day game after not fully healing from a hamstring thing, and that aggravated a groin injury. I think one thing kind of led to another in that one, and I think for the Suns, being as careful as possible when you still have Kevin Durant is what you need to do. And I think it's funny because what do we have? 8, 9, 10, 11 games in the regular season that Kevin Durant has played for the Suns so far?
We're up to 11. A
so
whopping 11.
He's tied the amount of postseason games basically that the Suns have played with him so far. And the Warriors game, it's easy, we have to, you and I, look at every game on a game-to-game basis, whether it be because we're recording a podcast or just talking about it online. And so, it's easy to be critical and talk about things that he did wrong. And then the Lakers game comes, and it was just one of those moments for me where I'm watching Kevin Durant in that game thinking, Kevin Durant's on the Suns. That's so crazy. Like it's still crazy to me.
Right?
Yeah.
Like not a year later, but 10 months later. What are we now? 8 months?
Yeah.
Since February?
22 games.
Yeah, and sometimes
is all we've seen.
It still hasn't quite sunk in. The Lakers game, he took the level that he raised his game to. Obviously, we can talk about the fourth quarter. We can nitpick and the fact that, he was out of gas. The entire offense had to be run through him. The offense when KD is the only star on the floor, that offense only makes sense if the role players around him, who in theory are spacers, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, and such, can actually hit their shots. And in that game, they did not hit shots. And Vogel made some substitutions and kind of went for like other, defense first lineups. And again, you can nitpick the hell out of that fourth quarter. But what KD did for the first 3.5 quarters of that game, and even finishing that game with 39 points, 11 rebounds, 14 of 28 from the field. He played 39 minutes. It took, by the way, 38-year-old LeBron James.
KD called him 40 years old.
That's why I mentioned it. It was supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. But it took LeBron James in a panic move for the Lakers, playing that entire fourth quarter, just for them to squeeze by us by 5 points when we were missing 2 of our stars. Very good sign for the Suns, honestly. I mean, I think like we could say that the depth didn't hold up in that game or whatever, but and I even said as much the night of, like on my Twitter when I was watching the game. But honestly, upon further reflection, like you put these role players into greater roles that they're not capable of. Like, Eric Gordon isn't supposed to be stepping in and filling Devin Booker's
But they
shoes.
do have to at sometimes of the season. Yes, it's not their main role, but also it kind of is. At some points of the season, it kind of is. But you're right. And I mean, to just add on that, Yuta Watanabe, Josh Okogie are shooting 44% and 43% from three so far this season. Everyone else on the Suns, you could make the case, is shooting worse than their career average.
Yeah, let me pull
so far.
up the team. I think we're only
Grayson Allen, 31%. Eric Gordon, 29%.
Yeah.
Jordan Goodwin, 27%. We'll see what that ends up being.
We're
Kevin
at
Durant,
29.
27.
We're at 29.7% as a team.
Yeah. So, and this is the thing about, like, just the Lakers game alone. All of them, role player wise, were bad as far as offense goes in that game. If one of them was okay, they probably could have won. But all of them being bad at the same time, while Kevin Durant plays just sort of like Kevin Durant, I mean, that's going to result in a loss. But more often than not, these guys will get up to their career averages, most of them most likely, over the course of the season. Maybe some of them even shooting better because of the amount of space that the Suns have. Hopefully Josh Okogie being one of those guys. By the way, we'll have to talk about him.
Sure.
And they'll play better. They will just play better. But, that Lakers game in particular, I did find myself just thinking, this has to be so much more fun for not Suns fans. It's Lakers fans.
It lived up to the hype of being the first meeting between KD and LeBron in 5 years, which, by the way, I think I knew that in the back of my head, but it must have gotten lost somewhere back there because I forgot until it was brought up again like a couple days before the meeting actually happened. And it lived up to the hype. It was an awesome game. I'm not sure what the ratings were for that one. I know you don't give a shit about ratings, and we say all the time fans shouldn't care about if the league is making money or not. But
it was so fun.
I have a feeling casual fans tuned in for that one, and it was probably a pretty good ratings draw.
And it was so fun for Suns fans, too, until the last 6 minutes of the game, basically. But, just watching those two Titans that have played for so long go back and forth. And also, in some ways, it was gratifying as a Suns fan to think both of these teams are awful without their star on the floor, right? The Suns were terrible without Kevin Durant. The Lakers were terrible without LeBron James, except that they're healthy, mostly. And the Suns aren't. And it's just nice to know that we're not in a situation where Kevin Durant has to do this every single night. Or at least we'll find out if we are at some point. But
we hope to not be in that situation, yeah.
Right, because if they're healthy, once they're healthy, they should be able to carry a lot more of that load as we saw in the preseason. And we're excited to see it as it goes forward. But yeah, I think Kevin Durant took a lot of unnecessary flack after that first game. And look, maybe the reality was that it was a little weird for him to play in front of those Warriors fans. Maybe we discounted that. Maybe it was just a bad game where he didn't shoot very well, which happens to every star player every once in a while, but really came back in those next two games and showed that he's still Kevin Durant. Does he get to the rim? No, not really.
He kind of did in the past two games. I mean, not sure, fine. He's not Giannis, but I don't know. He had 13 free throw attempts against the Lakers, and then
averaging 9 a game now. Yeah,
10 or 11 against Utah the other night. So he kind of did get to the rim. He's still picking his spots. Yeah, for sure.
He draws fouls, and it's not just at the going to the rim. He is driving. You're right, and I think he probably understood the assignment, if you will, in the last two games, knowing that there's no Devin Booker and no Bradley Beal. He kind of has to be the guy that drives, other than, of course, Eric Gordon, who still puts a lot of pressure on the defense when it comes to driving. Although, for some reason, that does not turn into free throws for Eric Gordon. If anything, he's actually creating more of the physicality than anyone else on his drives, because he just kind of lowers his shoulder like a running back and tries to get to the rim to create enough space to throw a little floater over them.
And this is actually crazy. Yeah, Eric Gordon, 15 field goal attempts. Just looking at his season stats right now, 15 field goal attempts per game, and he's taken one free throw.
Yeah,
45 or 46 field goal attempts to one free throw in 3 games.
And a lot of threes, of course.
Right,
but,
of course.
Not all of them.
We know, the reason I'm not worried about that, we talk up small sample size theater at this point in the season and will be for the next few weeks. We know who Eric Gordon is. This is one of the guys whose his game is not a secret to any of us. among all of the new
Yeah.
acquisitions that we have here this summer.
Yeah.
And we know what the statistics say for his career. He gets to the free throw line. Like, again, not to the extent of like, he's not going to get 10 free throw attempts per game, but he's gonna balance out. Like, this statistic is going to even out, and eventually Eric Gordon will be getting 3-4 free throw attempts per game like he always does, as long as he continues this pressure on the rim. Honestly, like, last couple games, use the Utah game as an example, I was really impressed with Gordon's driving ability.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was necessarily an opportunity for him to get free throws as much, because it's like,
Right.
like, he came in the second quarter. This is when he was really torching them. Now we're talking about the Utah game last night. And he saw, who is it? He saw Kelly Olynyk was in the game. And, like, you could tell that something flipped for him. Like, a switch came on. He said, "Yep, you are too slow. I don't care if I'm 34, 35 years old, whatever he is. You are too slow for me." He saw that there was, like, this flat-footed big man that he could just completely get on his hip, blow by, and cook. And at that point, he's not going to get fouled because there was no one at the rim. There was no one even rotating over. He got some wide-open layups in that game. So as long as he keeps up the consistent pressure, the fouls, the free throws will come eventually.
They mentioned it on the broadcast, but apparently Eric Gordon's career high is against Utah. It's just funny how that happens with guys. They just like to play certain teams, and they play well against certain teams. And Eric Gordon was excellent in that game. And, you know, part of the reason the Suns were able to blow them out, they were on the second night of a back-to-back, but part of the reason the Suns were able to blow them out was putting the pressure on them early with guys like Eric Gordon. And also, I think the first time that Grayson Allen had a good game was the Utah game. He finally kind of showed his value, showed his worth. I think he played well defensively, and then finally was hitting some shots and getting to the rim offensively for the Suns. But yeah, like I think the main takeaway is, for me, over I think the two KD games in particular, is if you're thinking about what the Suns can do, well, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are injured. We don't know how long that will be. Hopefully we find out tomorrow. We're recording this Sunday night. We don't know how long that'll be, but a lot of it will depend on how well the other guys play, the role players play, the depth, as we call them. And they have not yet played up to what they're capable of, meaning they still could win games. Like I said, if just Grayson Allen or just Eric Gordon had a good game in the Lakers game, I think that could have been enough. But if they all play badly on one night, it's not going to go well. But I think they've all, in spurts, have showed their value. And as it all kind of comes together and coalesces, I think they're all going to show that over time. Now, Josh Okogie, we should talk about him. I mentioned him earlier. Has been good in every game, right? That's one guy that's been consistently good all three games so far.
I'm glad to hear you admit it.
I'm good, man.
I'm kidding. You're not. You were never a Josh Okogie hater, but you've certainly. I mean, is he impacting the game right now? I mean, this is such an early conversation, but it's like,
we have to have early conversations at some point. If people get mad about us using stats, they got to get over it.
Right. No, but I'm saying more in the way that this relates to the playoffs, because it's like, his hustle is infectious and his attitude is infectious. And we've talked about previously how this is a Suns team that I think in general, you look at a lot of the positions here historically, and you think to yourself, this is a team that might struggle on the boards. But then in comes Josh Okogie, and he's grabbed like 50 offensive rebounds through the first three games. And obviously it helps that he's made his three-point shots so far. But is there any part of you that's more confident in Josh Okogie's ability to be a playoff contributor based on these three early regular season games, or do you not feel that way whatsoever? Is there anything you could see from Josh Okogie in the regular season, because we're going to be having this conversation a lot, Mike, I'll tell you right now, between now and April, that would change your mind about his ability to not have a repeat performance in the Nuggets series? Because I know for a fact that is your main hang-up with him.
So I think what is helpful about this team in comparison to last year's team is that it wasn't just Josh Okogie that was a nothing offensively. And this team in particular, if you put him on the floor and it's Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, that's extremely good, right? Those guys can make up for a lot of the offensive shortcomings of Josh Okogie. But then you also put Yusuf Nurkic in there, And I think his passing, along with Josh Okogie's cutting, will make a huge difference. As we know, DeAndre Ayton didn't really pass to cutters. I've mentioned it before. Every other pass to a cutter was a turnover. With DeAndre Ayton, that's not necessarily the case with Yusuf Nurkic. So I think that helps with spacing a lot. And also, once you start putting guys in off the bench, they can all shoot. And that's really helpful. With what the Suns were dealing with last year, it was either, somebody who could shoot like Terrence Ross, but was one of the worst defenders in the playoffs. Or it was someone like Landry Shamet who could kind of do everything, but when it was really, the heat was turned up as high as it was in the playoffs, he could kind of do nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's less concerning to me with the way that this team is made up than it was in the past. But like I said, the thing that's the nicest about the situation that the Suns are in is that if it's not working with Okogie, you can pull him pretty early and you have options. Whereas previously, you kind of had to play him when you were playing the Nuggets. You didn't really have any other options. Yeah. So it's just less concerning to me in general now.
It does help that he's been so awesome so far. And to be clear, he's earned the starting spot. I think he's going to continue to hold on to that starting spot for a while. They will experiment with other stuff. There will be games where someone else starts.
Well, he's the only one that can guard LeBron James and Steph Curry. Yeah, and that's what he did in the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
Right? There's nobody else on the team. You could say Grayson Allen, and I think that's probably pretty fair.
Yeah, I don't.
But he's not going to be. I mean, I'm just saying, out of the guys on the team, that's the size wise, that's the only one. But yeah, he did a good job on both guys too.
Right. Nazir Little, he got some reps on LeBron.
Yeah,
he would have gotten
terrible.
He would have gotten cooked by Steph for sure. And not that he locked down LeBron either, for the record. But yeah, I mean, Okogie, if you have to pull him, Yuta's right there, and he's had an awesome first few games too.
Yeah, Yuta's the only guy that the shooting has been unaffected by moving to the Suns. He's just still looks like the guy that was shooting the lights out.
His highlight last night, the behind the back dribble to the lefty, crafty floating finish at the rim that got the entire bench up. Actually, our friend Patrick, the photographer, Patrick Breen, is that his last name?
I think so, yeah.
Had a great reaction shot, I don't know if you saw it, of the Suns bench going wild as a reaction to that play, with Beal and Booker included, standing up with everyone. Everyone was just amazed at that point. But at that point in the game, it was already a blowout. The Suns were just having fun with it. And I think part of what was so great, too, was that was a 25 point blowout already. Clearly a situation. KD was already off the floor. They could have let their foot off the gas. But there's something endemic to this team right now. There's something about this second unit and all of the guys that were assembled of they're not quitters, and they all have this certain attitude, and they just continued to step on Utah's neck. Whether it was Jordan Goodwin or Yuta or Nazir Little catching alley-oop lobs in that game as well, they just continued going for it until, okay, now it's 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and fine, we'll bring in the real scrubs, if you will.
Yeah, that's when you can stop watching, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, and we still do. Trust me, I watched Udoka Azubuike guard some pick and rolls. I assembled some notes. Do you have any bowl notes from last night? By the way, he didn't do anything.
I mean, no, not really.
How about this though? The crowd loves him, and we knew that would be the case.
It's very fun, yeah.
But you have to admit that, keep in mind, this is the home opener. They're unveiling the new Ring of Honor, so there are also some awesome photos of Nash, Stat, and Marion sitting all next to each other, getting all cozy with each other. There's just awesome photos of all these Suns legends in the building last night. But when Bol checks in with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that crowd is still just as loud as they had been all night previously. They were still just as in it. That's the Bol effect. You can't deny it. He has a charisma.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely true. There's a moment in games where you kind of cheer when you've won. Sometimes it's at the very end of the game and you give everyone sort of. It's like when the team does their last bow at the end of a performance almost, and that moment comes now when Bol checks in. And that's the one thing I will make note of is that there was a point in the fourth quarter when it was 11 minutes left, and I was like, man, they're still not they're still not putting him in, and they're up by like 30 at this point.
That's what I'm saying. But the reason they were
buried
doing that
in the rotation is.
The reason they were doing that, I don't even think it's that. I mean, yes, he's buried in the rotation. He's literally the last guy to come off the bench. But I don't think it's a disrespect towards those guys thing.
No,
I think it's that Frank Vogel sees that Jordan Goodwin's still falling on the ground, getting after loose balls. Utah's still playing awesome stand-up individual defense, getting out in transition. Like, these guys earned the minutes. They did not want to be taken off the floor, even though easily you could have just played the third unit the entire fourth quarter, and they would not have. In a 99% chance, I'd like to think, 99.9, they would not have lost that game if you just played Bol the entire fourth quarter.
Right. By then, it's like Kevin Durant's already changed into a hoodie and a beanie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're not going to worry about it too much. Jordan Goodwin, you mentioned him multiple times there. We have to talk about him because I think when I was looking for the stat to try and figure out how much the Suns have outscored teams with Kevin Durant on the court, right? So I look at plus minus to try to figure out what that is. And look, you can quibble all you want, people listening here, with plus minus as a stat, and there's fair observations about that. But sometimes it just matches your eye test. And right now, Kevin Durant is at the very top of total plus minus on this team, meaning the Suns are playing their best when Kevin Durant's on the court. Number 2, Josh Okogie, which I think makes a lot of sense too. With his as the only role player that's been consistently good throughout all 3 games. Number 3, that's Jordan Goodwin. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. He has just been good. The combination of Josh Okogie and Jordan Goodwin and their ability to get rebounds as a guard for a team that struggles to rebound, and then Jordan Goodwin, the specific circumstances for him of the Suns basically playing without any other point guard on the roster for the 2 of the 3 games that they've played, if you count Devin Booker as a point guard, meaning Jordan Goodwin's importance is not just on the defensive end where he's been excellent. It's also on the offensive end where he's the only other player who can effectively dribble at that position. Currently, Kevin Durant's obviously fine. Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon have been fine as well, but Goodwin has been the main guy that's been helpful for that. And Jordan Goodwin, he's shot 32% so far. And I still look at him and go, man, he's ruled. Like, he's been really good.
Big part of it for sure, 3-point shooting we need to see. Like, he's shooting, 27% on 3 so far?
Yeah. 3 for 11, though. It's not a huge sample size.
Right, exactly. To be a consistent contributor on this rotation once Book and Beal come back and the minutes aren't necessarily going to be there every night for him anymore, we need to see that number go up. But even just like what he's doing attacking on the inside, like I think he's got decent touch out to, that floater range. I think if he can get 1 foot in the paint, you don't mind. He's one of the guys where maybe you actually don't mind him taking that short mid-range jumper. You'd like him to go all the way to the rim, get fouled, and everything. But I think he's got more to his offensive bag than we even realized. And we already were fans of his coming out of this trade. We already knew what he could bring on the defensive end and knew that he could, kind of run sets and be a point guard. But I think there's a real chance here that you found someone with just a rock solid all around game on both ends of the floor.
And in the situations like you're talking about where the Suns are up by a lot and they can put Jordan Goodwin and Josh Okogie in there, I'll mention it again. I'm really loving that. It's not going to work all the time because the offense does sort of grind to a halt when both of those guys are on the court at the same time. But they just harass guys. They outwork them. They fight. They dive on the ground. They're not afraid of contact going to the rim. So both of them have 7 free throws made already over those games, which for the amount of time that they hold the ball is good for what they've done. And, as a team, that's what, 3rd and 4th or total, or 3rd, basically total amount of free throws made so far on the team. And there's just guys that fan bases understand their value on the court where, like I said, if you look at his box score, there are things that stand out. Like he has some steals, he has some assists, he has some rebounds, but 27% from 3, 32% total from the field. Like nothing stands out about that. But I just knew as soon as the Washington Wizards fans were like, man, we're losing Jordan Goodwin. That sucks. They were real sad about it. Joe House really loved him when he came on the podcast. And I'm like, these are good signs for these guys, because fans know they watch games in and out. They watch games. We understand what Josh Okogie did in the regular season last year. Other teams might not get it when they look at his stats. Fans from the Wizards, they understood what Jordan Goodwin can do, and we've gotten a really good taste of that so far. And it's going to be, a lot of the talk on this podcast is about the rotation. It's going to be interesting how they find minutes for Goodwin when the team is fully healthy. Maybe he takes some of Josh Okogie's and each of them play a little bit less in these games. But I just have a feeling he can guard multiple positions. That's the other part too. So it's kind of easier to slot him in than some of the other guys that maybe are incapable of that. Mm-hmm. But being able to guard multiple positions, he doesn't necessarily have to be the point guard on the floor. Yeah. He can kind of be something else, and that's really helpful. He's just been great. I really enjoyed watching him play.
He could cut into other guys' minutes too. I mean, I don't think it's inconceivable that like Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen are very important parts of this team in theory, if it's all going to work out, but they're not untouchable in this rotation. Yeah. Like not at all. If one guy goes through an extended cold streak and Jordan Goodwin's right there with the hustle to back it up, yeah, he could steal minutes from those guys too. Work himself kind of into the primary backup backcourt conversation. Also, just real quick on Joe House, love the guy. Obviously, the fact that he came on our podcast was really cool too, and nice to see that he's on board with the Jordan Goodwin bandwagon. But we need him to be wrong on Bradley Beal because he has said some not so nice things about Brad Beal. That's all.
What do you think about Jusuf Nurkic so far?
Let me pull up his stats real quick. My general.
Well, I'll read them out to you while we while we have it up here. Let me find it too. So he's played all 3 games, which is nice that we at least have that so far. Let me look at this on a per game basis instead of looking at total stats for him. And he has 9.3 points per game, shooting 42.9% from the field, which is, I think, the stat for him that if you're going to look at as a bad stat, that's the one. 10 rebounds per game, so, close to a double-double. 4 assists, which obviously is one of the reasons he's on the team. 1.7 steals, 0.7 blocks, and then 4 fouls, which I think is something for him. And then minutes per game, he's at 26. So if you think about him doing 9.3 points and 10 rebounds in 26 minutes, that's not bad as far as rebounds and points for what you can expect out of him. Yeah,
it's not bad on a per 36 basis. I think my feelings on Jusuf, my first thought is that he's going to average more assists than I realized. Yeah. So credit to you on that one.
Yeah.
We'll see if it holds.
He's going to be top 5 in assists for centers this year.
Well, let's think about who's in that list. Jokic, Sabonis, Şengün.
Jokic. So there's guys that are easily going to pass him, which is Jokic, Sabonis, Embiid.
I would put Jokic, most Sabonis, Şengün is in there for sure.
Embiid, yeah.
And Embiid. So
and then you have if you count Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle, which basketball references, and I don't really either. Yeah, those guys don't play center on their team, so he could be that 5th guy.
Yeah, he could be. Okay. Yeah, I'll take your word on that one. He could be that 5th guy. Yeah, maybe competing with like Bam or someone for that 5th spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Bam will be around.
That's
there,
a good.
Like three,
I think.
Assists.
Yep, that's a good point.
Yeah, I just underrated the fact that, like, first of all, okay, I know he can find cutters. We know this. But I think I forget the extent to which, like, also the stat counters will just give centers like 1 or 2 assists per game just for handoffs, which
good screens
to me it's
make
always
a big difference.
It's kind of been bullshit. Like I've always kind of thought of that as bullshit.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely not the same as passing like a point guard assist. It's not the same.
But if those are going to count, then good for you, Jusuf. You're going to get your 4.5 assists per game, and maybe low key be up there near the top. They're just going to initiate a hell of a lot of offense through this guy at the high post area. And yeah, his screens, you mentioned his screens have been awesome through 3 games.
They really have, exactly. Him and Eubanks both. I watched on playback. I watched some of the Portland Trailblazers play in it. And now you sort of gotten, just after watching the Suns, I've gotten sort of used to seeing the Nurkic screens and the screens by Eubanks, and then I see some DeAndre Ayton screens, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. These are not the same. And DeAndre Ayton is more capable of slipping and getting to the rim on those slips because he's more of a lob catcher. But, you could see why the Suns want guys who make hard contact on those screens regularly to free up guys like Beal, Booker, and KD who can do a lot with those screens. Or even someone like Eric Gordon, who's done a lot with some of those screens.
Yes.
I think that Nurkic has been good in all 3 games. And I think there were times where Eubanks was bad, and it actually helped to showcase what Nurkic is good at. The offense looks better when Nurkic is on the floor pretty regularly, and the stats kind of bear that out. Defensively, I want to talk about defense as like a whole conversation in just a second. You can almost feel like this
I was
at the beginning.
At
the beginning, we're talking about players. Like at the end, I almost want to have a Frank Vogel conversation because I want to talk strategically what the Suns have been doing. But Nurkic defensively, I think, has been fine as well. There are teams that are going to make it more difficult for him, as we talked about, but I thought he kind of stood his ground against the Lakers much better than before. The Lakers, what did they score to win that game? Like 95 points or something like that? It didn't take much. And, overall, I think defensively he has been good. He's not great. And I think Eubanks is better as a defensive player, just defense alone. But I don't know. I think Nurkic has shown that he's just a better player. Like I think you've seen that so far over the course of these games.
I think
finishing is hideous. It really is hideous. So I understand the concerns there.
To address that real quick, I think Eddie was the one who actually has been bringing this up on the broadcast. I would like to see him be more confident, despite the finishing numbers. I want to see him be more confident in his offense. When he gets close to the basket, I actually think he's leaving shot opportunities up for grabs. Where he's passing out because he thinks he can get that 4th, 5th assist, whatever. And I understand he's the short roll maestro and all that. But I think there are some easy bunnies for him 5 or 6 feet out that those are shots that he could be taking. And even if has bad finishing numbers for a center, if you get other guys in foul trouble, because that is a shot attempt that's often going to get you to the free throw line, plus all the times that you're going to make that shot because it's still basically a layup. I think it's still good offense for him to just lay that up. So I'd like to see him
on the team,
be a little more
free
confident.
throws in free throws attempted.
Yeah, no, he's
second on the team.
He's capable,
and that can go higher. Just like you said, that can go higher.
Could go way higher. For the defensive portion, he's been all right. Let's wait and see maybe because especially in that Utah game, that drop was so deep. I don't know if you noticed.
And by design, this is what I want to talk about actually.
But I want to see. I want to see. I know we're going to talk about defense as a full concept in just a second.
Yeah,
who's the first team coming up that's really going to challenge us on a drop schematically? It's not San Antonio. Next 2 games are against San Antonio. I think we need to play a game against a real high caliber pick and roll. Yes, yeah, and the Thunder actually are coming up in a couple weeks, so that might be an interesting test. I want to see what this team does, and specifically what Nurk does against a high octane pick and roll heavy offense. So not Steph, because Steph's a different type of point guard.
The Nuggets would be nice too.
Yeah, the Nuggets. That'll always be a challenge for its own reason. But I'm really happy with the defense so far, and happy with Nurk's performance. But we got to see it kind of go through the ringer a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't be making a decision about how he is as a defender after 3 games. But in those 3 games, I thought he's been most of the time good. And I think that is a little bit surprising. Defense as a whole. Now, I think the Suns have outperformed even just 3 games. Look, who knows how long any of these stats will hold, but I think they've outperformed most everyone's expectations as a defensive team so far, right?
4th best defense in the NBA as of the time of recording this.
Yeah.
4th in the NBA defensive rating. Of course, none of us expected them to be there.
Yeah.
Through 3 games.
And if you look at just the teams that have played 3 games, they're the best defense. The other 2 teams that are the other 3 teams that are above them have only played two games so far. And I think that I've been really impressed, and I think maybe part of the reason the defense has been better is when Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are out, it's Jordan Goodwin coming in and playing more of those minutes, for example, or Nasir Little coming in and playing some of those minutes, and those guys are more defensively focused. So I think that has made a difference. But even just watching the starters play, they've just held their own. And I think so you talked about Nurkic. This is I think what's interesting, and this is why Frank Vogel is
Coach
the
of the
coach
year?
of the Suns right now. Coach of the yeah.
Are we starting the campaign?
Give him the award.
Coach of the year, let's go.
Nurkic was in a deep drop against the Jazz, and he wasn't in a deep drop against the Warriors, for example. He played much higher because it was the Warriors. And then they mixed it up depending on who was running the pick and roll, even with just the Jazz at times. Sometimes he was higher, sometimes he was lower, most of the time lower against the Jazz. And the same with the Lakers. Depending on who was running the pick and roll on the Lakers, he played high, he played low. They even had times where they trapped in the Warriors game, for example, if it was Steph Curry or Klay Thompson coming around some of those screens and just trying to get the ball out of those hands. And I think the versatility in scheme is the thing that I think Frank Vogel is going to be extremely good at. For example, against the Lakers, if Anthony Davis was in the post, they doubled so fast and so hard. I posted some clips on it. They came off the opposite corner. They sunk down and brought long-arm defenders into the passing lanes, and they forced turnovers out of those doubles.
It's a great strategy, just real quick on that, against Anthony Davis, who we all know. Like that doesn't work against Jokic, obviously.
I was just going to say, because LeBron, same thing in the post, double.
Yeah.
They just didn't do it, right? And everyone was on the same page with what was going to happen, meaning the Suns players are all smart and all prepared depending on the player that was in the post. They're going to bring that double on AD because he's not a great passer. They're going to force the ball out of his hands. They're going to try to keep whoever's guarding him out of foul trouble. Because he's just, like I said
on the Patreon pod this week, he's just DeAndre Ayton. The slightly advanced, slightly upgraded DeAndre Ayton is what Anthony Davis is.
He's the evolved DeAndre Ayton. But yeah, with LeBron, he's going to pick you apart on those passes, and you kind of want to force him into it and try and tire him out if you can. And they did that. Look, of course, we all know the outcome of those games, but it's more, to me, learning about what Vogel wants these guys to do after years of understanding what Monty was going to do, who was a little bit stubborn, and I think Vogel's a little less stubborn in what they're willing to do and what they're willing to try. And I also think, the versatility of these Suns players, their ability to adapt and react, there's not that long-term processing speed that some of the players had on the Suns, whether it be DeAndre Ayton or like TJ Warren, who forgot where he needed to be on defense pretty often, or Terrence Ross, who forgot where he needed to be on defense pretty often. The Suns have a bunch of players who seem to be on the same page as we've seen the season start defensively. How teams react to that, how teams change as scouting reports come and other teams are better prepared to see what the Suns are doing defensively rather than the beginning of the season when we're catching everybody off guard a little bit, will be, a change with how those stats look. But right now, I have actually been extremely impressed with what the Suns have been able to do defensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's still so early. And I think, just expanding on that point, we're still going to see so much more from them that we haven't had a chance to see just based on their opponents in these first 3 games. It's interesting because everyone says, like, we know Vogel is a defensive-minded coach, yada, yada, whatever. But I think sometimes people confuse that with the notion of that he's rigid. And that's the furthest thing from the truth based on what we've seen so far, right? Like, I think there's a true gamification. I sense that he enjoys this process of coming to a new team where, as we know, 13 players are new. It's not just Vogel that's new. He's got all of these toys, and he's legitimately excited, enthused about the ability to play with them. And so he hasn't exactly figured out 100% what the defensive scheme, what the defensive system is going to be all the time. There's going to be a lot of experimentation with this roster, and that should excite all of us, even if the results are not always picture perfect. We're thinking ahead to the playoffs.
How do you feel about like really crashing hard for offensive rebounds instead of running back to just stop guys in transition? Because Monty kind of left those offensive rebounds, like he would let Josh Okogie crash, right? But like DeAndre Ayton would run back. The Suns centers would run back immediately. Now it seems like the Suns are really trying to crash hard on the offensive rebounds. And obviously, they're like top 10 in offensive rebounding.
The guards are.
Right now. Not that it matters, but yeah.
The guards are, but is Nurk? I'm not sure.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I guess crashing. I guess I hadn't noticed him doing it like more than usual for a big. Because I think my philosophy would be let the guards do it as much as they want. But if we've got a big that we're a little bit more worried about having to protect on defense, then I probably do want them back.
2.7 offensive rebounds per game for Nurkic so far.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I wonder what that is like in the entire NBA. Yeah, he is probably like 20 something total in the NBA in offensive rebounds, And I found that to be kind of surprising. I thought they would be really focused because we talked about it, like turnovers, which they are struggling with turnovers. They bottom 5 to 10 in turnovers in the NBA so far. You think that transition is going to be a real focus, but when shots are up, the Suns are going to fight for those offensive rebounds, and they're not. It's not going to be just one guy. Often it's 2 or 3 guys really fighting for offensive rebounds, and they're not necessarily running back in transition just to stop the ball. And just even slowing them down on getting those rebounds helps. And I've liked it. I think if you have guys like Jordan Goodwin and Josh Okogie playing a lot of minutes for the team, those guys are just ball hawks. They're going to get there. They're going to get their hands on it, and they're going to mess people up. And I've enjoyed seeing that so far, and I'm curious to see if they continue to do that when Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are playing a lot of minutes.
Absolutely. Some other guys here defensively, I just want to give shout-outs. Basically, we talked about Yuta a little bit already, but I think he's played some awesome individual defense. He's gotten his hand on a few deflections, a few blocks. Obviously,
LeBron was trying to go at him on every possession. He forced a few turnovers in those situations. LeBron really didn't do what he was trying to do against Yuta.
Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
He's
solid.
Again, I feel like we've talked about this, right? Like, I feel like nothing about Gordon's game is exactly a secret to us. We knew he had this in him. But when we've needed a stop, Eric Gordon has kind of been a guy who's been there. And he's answered the call through 3 games. I thought he's just been more than solid on the perimeter.
Yeah, I think he's smart, right? So you start there, and you're in a good place. But he's been asked to do more over the course of the season because of the injuries, and he's just solid. He's in the right place. He's extremely strong, and he's capable of doing the right thing in those scenarios. Another guy, if we're giving shout-outs defensively, Drew Eubanks, 1.7 blocks
he was my
per
last
game
one.
in 18 minutes per game. Very Bismack Biyombo style
by the way,
for him.
Shout out to Bismack Biyombo in case anyone missed it, because this news is easy to miss. Bismack Biyombo did get picked up by the Memphis Grizzlies, correct?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll probably be obviously they lost Steven Adams, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll probably be seeing him at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, he's going to play on that team, I think. They've been not good, by the way. I think I
haven't had a chance.
On the Patreon podcast, I made a bet that they would get the over in wins. I think I'm going to lose that based on how they played so far.
Haven't had a chance to catch any of their games so far. I'll try to soon.
They've been no good. But yeah, I think Eubanks moves his feet. He's able to get to the rim. And by the way, we know that he's been posterized a few times. I mean, in 3 games, we've had 2 guys really go at him to try and posterize him, and he stopped both of them. One of them was a foul. One of them was a block. He stays in there. He doesn't run away from it. Like, if they're going to try to destroy him going to the rim, he's not afraid. It's nice to see that out of a center on the Suns.
He's also got, he's not going to get a ton of touches, but his jump hook, not bad. I don't know where that percentage is going to land on this season. I don't think it's going to be Ayton-esque or anything, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it as a little bit of extra offense.
Nasir Little has gotten some minutes for the Suns. You talked about it. He guarded LeBron.
Yeah.
I think more minutes than I expected him to get.
Yeah.
So, he's ahead of, for example, he's ahead of Keita Bates-Diop.
Should he be?
We didn't really know. I don't know.
My impression through 3 games, and I don't know if this is fair. I think he just needs to hit his threes. I think defense has been solid for Nasir. I think he's shown us a little bit of the athletic pop too. It's just fun. This is something I mentioned in the past, but it's just fun to have athletes on this roster again who jump out of the gym and just get fans excited. Nasir Little is one of those guys, and we've been missing that for a couple of years. But he needs to hit the threes, and if he can't, I don't know. I'd give Bates-Diop a run to see what he can do. I wonder, is it that Keita Bates-Diop must be looking awful in practice, or Nasir Little must be looking really good, like what they did in training camp, for Nasir to be ahead of him in the depth chart so far? Because if you look just at the body of work, Bates-Diop had a better season last year for the Spurs, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, shooting percentage alone, I think. Although Nasir Little was not a bad 3-point shooter last year in Portland. I think he shot something like 37% or something like that. It wasn't like really bad 3-point shooting, but I think he's shooting, 12% on the Suns so far, and not a ton of attempts, but not a small amount either. Like he takes them when he's out there, and he should continue to take them on this team because they need him to take those shots. They need to guard him out on the perimeter. But I think when he's played so far, he's guarding stars, which is asking a lot. Like you said, he was guarding LeBron. There were times where he was even on Anthony Davis in some possessions. You just put him out there and let him play defense. And if you have that kind of trust, Frank Vogel, like you said, there must be something there that he sees. I don't think he's been terrible. I'll just say that. I
don't think he's been terrible. I think I can see the vision for why he was brought on, beyond just being a tradable contract for the future and and kind of some other factors. But no, I can see talent there. But he's shooting 15% from deep so far.
Do you have any thoughts on Metu not being in the rotation at all? Keita Bates-Diop. Is there any guys that you think should play that aren't playing right now? Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting because I think we went for. I obviously like Metu. I've said that on the pod already. I thought he was just awesome in preseason, and I'm encouraged, by the way, by the fact that going back to our conversation about Vogel with scheme versatility, we got a couple minutes of KD at the 5 already.
And that seems like that's coming before they try Metu. Right?
Yeah.
As far as when the game is on the line. Yeah.
I get it. I get it. If the game's on the line, you go to KD at the 5. You don't go to Chimezie Metu Chimezie, check in. You haven't shot a ball in 2 hours, but here he is the last 5 minutes of the game. No, that's dumb. Obviously, they're not going to do that. But if he's willing to put KD at the 5, I'd think he'd be willing to put Chimezie at the 5 in there eventually. So I would still like to see it. What I think has been interesting is that I wasn't expecting it to be a 9-man rotation only, I guess. I thought we might get a 10, but it's kind of felt like opening the season, all 3 games, it's been a 9-man rotation.
Yeah,
except for the blowout minutes, obviously.
Yeah, and it will probably, I don't know, we'll see what it ends up being when they're
healthy. It's just going to end up being really crowded if that theoretically continued to be the case when they got healthy, because I think clearly the first guy you cut out when one of Beal or Book comes back is Nasir Little. But the big question is after that, when both of those guys are finally back, okay, so now you have the choice. Do you cut out Jordan Goodwin or do you bring in, anyone else?
I'm not going to do this every week, but if that Bol spot was a playable center,
you're going to have to let it go.
He's not playable. He's not playable in those minutes, and it would be nice if it was just a playable center where if Nurkic is in foul trouble, which he will be, he's not going to play a ton of minutes regardless, even if he's not in foul trouble, but he's going to use his fouls in those 27 minutes that he plays a game. And then Eubanks, if he's in foul trouble or just is not good at times, it would be nice to have someone to play. And the fact that we have Bol eating a roster spot at this point, and they're not playing him until 5 minutes left in a game that they're up by 30, it's not perfect. It feels a little bit like not a contenders type move. It feels a little bit like a team with not trying to win, for example. That's the roster spot that doesn't make a ton of sense.
I know
it's
you
not
don't
even just a center, by the way. It'd be nice to have another point guard on the team too.
Well, sure, and we'll be. I agree more on the point guard aspect, and we'll talk about that probably more as the season goes on. Bol, yeah, man, he hasn't been good in preseason. I'm willing to admit it now. Yeah. I don't think they're getting rid of him.
He's not playable when the game is on the line. Just period. Right now.
Yeah, but
maybe he will be at some point in the season. I don't think so, but right now, if they're we're trying to win this game, he's not going to play until the last few minutes.
Would you say that everyone else on the roster, excluding the two-ways, you could theoretically trust in a
if
do
there
or
were
die?
injuries
if
or
there were
foul trouble?
if there were injuries or foul trouble, you put Damian Lee, you put Chimezie Metu, you put those guys in there, and you're just
fine.
Probably.
But
Bol
I
is
feel better about that. Yeah,
but Bol is where you draw the line.
Yeah, and by the way, we're talking about 3-point percentage. This is only semi-related to the Bol situation, but these guys who are shooting well under their career average, 31% for Grayson Allen, 29% for Eric Gordon, 27% for Kevin Durant, even Nurkic, but I don't think he's going to take a ton, but Nurkic, all of them would probably shoot better if there was a great point guard that could step in and help them. Obviously, Devin Booker is going to make a huge difference, just creating gravity and space for these guys. And
he's done that. He's done that for years. For years,
yeah,
it was
everyone shoots better off his passes.
I don't have the stat off the top of my head, but I swear I think Mikal Bridges over the past 3 years, off of passes from Booker, shot like 50% from deep, and off of passes from anyone else, shot like 30. It was insane.
The help that comes off of somebody like, in the corners, if it's like Yuta Watanabe or one of these guys, the help that comes off of them is going to be different when it's Eric Gordon driving compared to Bradley Beal or Devin Booker. Those guys are going to help out a lot. But like in the minutes without them, if they miss another game or two, you can see why the Suns still were interested in another point guard. Another point guard would help to get those guys better shots in positions to help them to make them. So, just thinking about shot percentage-wise, factor that in, people who are listening, in thinking about this conversation. Because once Devin Booker's back, those percentages will likely go up. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed on that one over a longer period of time. But even in the meantime, as they get used to playing with each other, someone like Nurkic can make great passes. Kevin Durant, we've seen him make a lot of great passes on this team so far. And then Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon, other guys. Like, you look at the assists situation for the Suns. It's really funny because after Devin Booker, no one's averaging more than 4. And it's Yusuf Nurkic is the next guy, tied with Kevin Durant, 4 per game. There's just nobody out there that's capable of creating a ton of shots for these guys other than just Kevin Durant getting doubled, which means it might be 2 or 3 passes until somebody else is able to take that final shot. So it's just, I don't know what they're going to do about this long term. Maybe Bradley Beal comes back, Devin Booker comes back, and one of those 2 guys is playing every game for the rest of the season. They don't have to worry about it at all because Jordan Goodwin's pretty good off the bench if he has to be that guy. But if that does not happen, they probably will end up looking for a point guard at some point this season, I think.
And it would be Bol Bol on the chopping block.
Bol, maybe
Nasir
Little. Yeah. Or maybe they find a way to package 2 of these minimum guys once they're tradable, a few months from now.
Look,
and making that move.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, my friend. But in the meantime, the fact that we are here, we are 2-1, and our big 3 has not played together yet. Granted, there have been some playmaking issues along the way. They are close to the bottom of the league in turnovers per game. So far, I do think that will improve once those guys finally get healthy. But yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Wemby.
He's coming.
Halloween.
This is why you can't completely knock Bol Bol. Sorry to bring him up
2 games in a row, by the way, not just Halloween. 2 games in a row against
I would start Bol Bol for one possession. I would have him do
hack him.
Here's my question. I haven't actually looked. Who does the tip for the Spurs? Is it Zach Collins because he's the center? Or is it Wemby because he's tallest?
It's got to be Wemby. I don't know for sure, but it's got to be Wemby.
It's got to be Wemby. I would just put Bol Bol in there for the tip.
And then Foul and Frank Vogel could give Popovich that double thumbs up.
That double thumbs up, the classic, that
classic he gave Shaq in the first game of the regular season a few years ago. Have you watched him? What have you thought?
Of course.
Any thoughts?
Of course I've watched him. I mean, I hope it's not blasphemous to say because I understand, Robert Horry haunts my dreams and everything too. Like, he ruined my childhood. I get it. Like, I didn't like the Spurs growing up. But this has been the first Spurs team maybe ever that I can see myself getting into these guys and watching a lot of their games.
Great.
I mean, I've liked
they meet them in the playoffs or something, right?
Sure, until it becomes personal, and I get that. But I've followed Wemby for a while. Not to act like, I was scouting him when he was 13 or anything, but just to say that I've been watching his highlights for the past few years because the hype has been enormous, but he is not only such a generational talent, but also such a humble kid. If you watch his interviews, I think he's fairly uniquely equipped to come into this firestorm, this media firestorm that's being created, and handle the pressures that are being put on his shoulders, which is, we often talk about how remarkable is it that LeBron James, whether you love him or hate him, all the pressures that he's faced over the past 20 years. And what's the worst scandal that you could come up with about LeBron? Playing in the social media age, negative headlines, negative social media all the time. Think about what Michael Jordan would have faced if he had played in this era of constant negativity and just negative news.
Yeah. We would call him an unethical scorer, a foul baiter.
A foul baiter and an unethical scorer. The gambling thing would have been a lot bigger. It's the fact that LeBron's record is so clean is a miracle. And
blurry pictures of Michael Jordan at a casino is funny to picture.
Yeah, and when you look at Wemby, I mean, I can't predict the future, but he's got his head on his shoulders. I think he's going to be okay. And good as a basketball player too, for the record. So I'm excited for his career. I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah, I'm guessing KD's guarding him.
Yeah,
it's just what it's going to have to be, which is pretty cool.
I think it's.
And I think he's probably Wembanyama's probably going to take that as like a challenge. That this is the guy that Wembanyama has been compared to the most.
I think there's a best case scenario here for both of these guys, like where KD has some sort of welcome to the NBA moment on Wemby, right? But I could also see Wemby having a highlight where he, I don't know, like blocks,
one crossover or something.
Like the Allen Iverson time he crossed over Michael Jordan. Or like if he blocks KD's shot, which no one ever does, I could see KD looking at him like, oh shit, like this is the future. I'm obsolete. Like they don't make kids like this,
right?
Or prospects like this don't come around often. So we could see kind of both of them give it to each other a little bit. It should be fun.
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch him play against the Suns.
Rest of that team sucks. I like
Vassell rocks, man. He's been so good.
Devin Vassell rocks. I like Collins in his role. I'm not a big Keldon Johnson fan. Haven't been for a while. I think he would be good on. I think
he would be good in a small role on a good team instead of a big role on a bad team.
Maybe.
I think he's a little miscast there.
So
I think the way that people have talked about Wemby, he's played 27 minutes a game. Like he's not playing a ton of minutes to start, first of all. But also, there's been a lot of conversations about how do we get him more shots? How do the Spurs get him more shots? It's like just let him play a little bit for a while.
Yeah. Can I just say,
things will even out over time. It is different. Things will be fine. And look, I think he's not played great in every minute he's played so far, but he's a rookie and he'll be fine.
I mean, can I just read? Like, it's only been 2 games, but his per 36 minutes stats: 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3.3 steals, 2.7 blocks, 6 turnovers. Yeah, it's a lot of turnovers.
It is,
but
if
that's your baseline where you're starting as a rookie,
he's gonna be fine.
I remember the Chris Paul trade episode that we did though, where one of the trades that I proposed was that San Antonio should get Chris Paul.
Yeah,
watching Sohan start as their point guard. I just still feel
Trey Jones off the bench. Yeah,
I feel reaffirmed that I don't know if Chris Paul would have accepted that situation. Maybe he only really wanted to go to a place where he felt like he could compete.
They would have made the playoffs.
But if Chris Paul was their point guard, then Wemby's getting 18 to 20 shots a game.
Yeah.
And I would feel so much better about just what their offense looks like on a consistent basis.
They would have made the playoffs. I feel confident in that. I'm looking forward to that game. It's coming up. We're recording this Sunday night, so for most people listening, it'll be tomorrow, Halloween, and then another one a few days later, home and home, I believe, one in Phoenix, one in San Antonio. I hope the Suns win both games. We'll be back after the first one Wednesday, Sam, for Patreon.
Yes, sir.
Right? Sound good to you? So if you're a Patreon member, we'll be back talking about that first one. If you'd like to join, you can join patreon.com/thetimeline. If you haven't already, check out our merchandise, ethicalhoops.com. We have some cool stuff there that you can check out. Other than that, we'll be back. We appreciate you all. It's very fun for us to have the opportunity to talk about real basketball on this podcast. We'll be back very soon.